I need the older players. Old to me is a year, two, three. That's old to lead the young ones because I feel like half of the roster is in their first season at Georgia. Not necessarily their first season of college football, but their first season at Georgia. That was Kirby Smart, Ryan, talking with reporters about what he wants to see. And this was at the beginning of the press con. I don't know if this was the first question, but it was pretty quick. Kirby's wanting to see more from the, quote, older guys, and that could be Oscar Delp. It could be I almost said Dustin Lucy. It could be Lawson Lucky, Oscar. It could be Monroe Freely. It could be any of these guys that have been around the block for a while. Dylan Bell, Don Everett. They've got to be like, hey, this is just what this is. I remember. Go ahead, and then I want to take your. Don't let me forget my Mo Smith story.
Your Mo Smith story. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah, I mean, I was at the press conference on Tuesday night. We talked to 7 different guys. All right, there was a lot, and a lot of them were guys that had been around. I mean, Nate Frazier and KJ Bolden. He considers them guys that have been around partly because
They've started.
they several hundred snaps at that point, right? I mean, Nate Frazier has 100 something carries under his belt. KJ Bolden was one of the main guys in that secondary last year. So they're now considered older players. They've got a lot of new on this team. Part of why Kirby is saying that and probably feeling it so much is they've got some injuries, and so to certain positions, and there's even younger guys and freshmen
You know.
taking more reps than they would be this spring. So he's seeing that. And Dalen Everett, Oscar Delp, whoever, CJ Allen is going to be a big part of what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. He's going to be the quarterback of that defense. Gunnar Stockton's not a super loud person, right? He's
No.
not rah rah. He's not
But
getting in your
Carson
throat.
wasn't either.
And Carson wasn't either. And somehow they found someone even quieter to supplant Carson afterwards. So Gunnar's going to lead by example. It's not going to be the vocal leader. So there's going to have to be guys that go to these younger players in practice, like we heard about on Tuesday night, and say, look, this is how it's going to be. This is what it takes to win, and this is what it takes to be successful. You can't get offended by harsh coaching and coaching that you've never experienced before, because now you're in an elite Division I program. So what would you have to say about Mo Smith?
Well, let me get to Mo Smith in a second. You again, practice is so critical to the way you are as a team, who you are, and shout out to the Coker women's team who were at the Elite Eight. Ryan, by the way, not only did they win the conference, they're at the Elite Eight, and I don't think it's out of the question they win the national championship. So shout out to the Coker women. When we were at practice, at Coker, the ball was not out of bounds. There was no out of bounds. If the ball went into the stands and you went and got it, you had possession. So that's how we practiced. We were way too physical. Coach, admitted that was a mistake. That was a wake-up call quickly. Like, it was 1st to 3. We did not call fouls. Like, you had to be drawing blood to call a foul. So it was kind of anything goes. If you scored, you were really doing something. That's the way Coach Schmott. I'm talking about Dan Schmott's right, Coker. That's the way he coached. That was his DNA. At Georgia, they are probably more practical about the way that they deal with their physicality, but there's a particular way that they're gonna do it, and it's critical that you practice the way that you plan to play. Mo Smith was a player at Alabama, a graduate transfer who got to Georgia in 2016. Well, I've got your attention. Check out the link down below from our good friends at BetMGM. Use the promo code MEGABET, MEGABET, to get a chance of up to $1,500 on bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. The link is right down below. You can bet on any number of things. Futures for the NFL, futures for college football. They got baseball betting, all sorts of things that you can have fun with. Let's be responsible about it. Don't miss out on this. It's a really cool thing. Again, from our buddies over at BetMGM, use the promo code MEGABET, MEGABET. Get a chance for up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Check it out. Links right down below. It was a big fight between Kirby, the SEC, and even Alabama to not permit Mo Smith to go to Georgia. Well, Kirby kept pressing, and eventually Kirby won. And long story short was, that was Mo's first year at Georgia. He made a huge play against Auburn to win that game, a pick six, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016. And there was a moment in the season when Mo basically turned to the guys and was like, "No, this is how you do it. These practices are how you do it. That's it. Like, there's no, what are we doing?" I've experienced this some from my limited coaching period of time where, the people you're coaching they just want to chill out and be comfortable. Well, the other team's going to go get the ball. Like they're not playing by your rules. They're trying to defeat you, and they're not just going to let you do whatever. So Mo Smith's point to the team at Georgia at the time, which was like Isaac Nada, it wasn't Isaac's a bad example because he was a newcomer, but it was the guys who had been around the block for a while at Georgia and played for Kirby that first season. They were getting used to what was coming, and what was coming was a freight train. But it took a while, and Mo basically said to them at some point, I can't remember when it was, he just said, "Hey, this is what it is, y'all. We have to practice this way. And if you don't, you won't have success." They're in practice 4. Was that practice 4, Ryan? So they're practice 5 on Thursday, whatever it is.
It's on Saturday, right?
That 3, yep. So that was 4.
Four.
So by the time you're watching this, they will be a third of the way through spring ball. That's a lot of time. They do have to go, man. There can't be hands up. You can't be tired. One problem is they can't condition them the way you really need to until they are practicing. So that's one problem, is conditioning is getting in the way of, taking the coaching. You have got, coaching is the way you coach it, the way that practice is completely important. People go way too hard on the Allen Iverson thing. Allen Iverson was a professional. He was an all-NBA player. That is not the same as everybody else at all. He did not need to practice, but these guys do.
Yeah, and I mean Kirby talks about it all the time. How everything is won in practice. The games are partially won in practice. He talks about how difficult it is at Georgia. How it's not like other places. They want to go really hard. And when these high school guys get there, he said, "Look, and the reps they would be taking in 3 hours, they're trying to get those reps in now in an hour and 40 minutes." And that's why people are gassed, because they're not quite used to it yet. But you go through the last few years, and all the players talk about how practices are more difficult than a lot of the games they play.
Yep.
Maybe not as difficult as an SEC championship against Texas or games like that, but when you're your run-of-the-mill SEC game or some of these cupcake types of games, the Georgia players have felt that it's just not as difficult because they go out there and it's easy. And why is it easy? Because it was really hard at practice. For one, because of how hard they're going. 2, because they're going up against other really, really good football players. And that's why they're demanding such a standard. And Kirby took that from Alabama and brought that to Georgia. And obviously Mo Smith brought some of that with him when he transferred over. But that's the normal at Georgia, and that's what it's going to be. And if you can't get down with that, Kirby, he'd rather not have you around.
Well, here's the important part. Here is the learning curve, is literally the learning part. It is hard to teach someone and them go hard at the same time. They have to know it. And the knowing, as those of us who are children of the 80s, knowing is half the battle. Yeah, because when you're thinking, you're not playing. You just need to quit. Like, the more you think in athletics, and this sounds counterintuitive, the more you think in athletics, kind of the worse. It needs to be a natural reaction. You need to have done it so not many times that it's like, oh, well, I know how to do this. You don't even think. Thinking is a problem. I will contradict myself in the future about this, I guarantee you. But what I'm saying is your body doesn't need to think. Your mind should always be thinking. But your body needs to immediately react to something or cause a reaction to things. And what's going on at Georgia right now, we've seen 15 minutes of practice, whatever it is. So, they have practiced far more than we will ever see. What's going on, I guarantee you, is the older players know how to do it. The younger players or the people who have not been there don't. and everyone's trying to teach people who've not been there, this is how we do it. They're not getting it yet. And Kirby's like, hey, y'all got to help these guys. And he's right, but they got to coach them. I mean, like, I don't mean that down towards the coaching staff. I mean, this is the challenge. This is the bread and butter of athletics is you can't hit the ball for them. You have to teach them to hit the ball and, go through the ball. Don't chop it. There's a million things that are so important in all these sports, little things. But right now they're learning how to do stuff, Ryan. And as you know, through this experience, it's easy to talk about learning it, but what happens when something goes wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
And something goes wrong all the time, for the record.
Yeah, stuff.
It just
Something went wrong
does.
the other day for me, so it happens. Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, it's on the coaches first and foremost, but the older players are going to have to step up and do it. And Kirby said, "Look, we got to coach them better. We got to do a better job of getting them in shape because at the end of the day, the responsibility does mostly fall on their shoulders." But part of that conversation kind of turned into is, are the kids just different? And Kirby and they talked about NIL and how people, just want things handed to them nowadays and fighting a little bit of a different battle. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these kids are coming in and they're millionaires, right? They're not. It's a different battle, and that bleeds into it a little bit. Now, I don't think that the Georgia guys are necessarily super rich compared to some of the people that you look at across the country. And he wants the CJ Allens of the world in that room, the guys that don't care about the money.
Let me look. Kids these days, that conversation has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
So, in biblical times, they were probably saying, kids these days. Look, the job is the job, and it's up to them to get kids these days to perform however you do that. The skill is in the coaching, and this is a real. Again, this is a good coaching staff. Kirby just says the best in the country. So, although there are sliding scales here, if it's the best in the country, they have all the capability in the world to get these guys where they need to go. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.